Hi, Yorel. How are you?
Ça va très bien et toi?
Good. Hold on a second. I didn't know I would be like this. Is this okay?
Ouais, c'est parfait.
Okay, great.
Tu m'entends bien? Tu me vois bien?
J'entends super bien and merci tellement de m'avoir.
Ah ouais, ça fait plaisir, ça fait très très plaisir. Déjà avant de commencer comme la discussion, etc., euh, j'aimerais savoir un petit peu comme d'où tout ce concept-là de cet intérêt pour comme le parenting, les relations, c'est venu. Comment ça a commencé exactement, en
My,
général?
my interest in
Ouais,
why I'm doing this. So,
exact.
yeah, so my previous job before parenting coach, I opened up and I ran a program at OMETS here in Montreal. And I opened it up for young adults that were rejected from their homes, from their families, from schools, and really, really just simply misunderstood. And as I was with these individuals, I realized how much, stems from childhood. And in the meantime, I was also studying childhood in regards to myself as a parent for the past 8 years. And I was realizing as I was helping them how much comes from that. And I said, there's no better, more important topic than parenting, because that is where the roots of everything stems. There are also many other reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, but I think that was really my main push. After the program is still running. I got pregnant with my fourth child, and I gave it over. Somebody else is running it, and I decided to give over everything I've been studying for the past 8 years.
Wow.
I'm still in school right now, so I still have a lot to learn. There's always a lot to learn. And actually, what really fascinated me is that I was realizing the more I'm learning, the more I realize how much I really don't know, and how much there is to know, really. So, yeah, so I'm still learning, but I'm happy to already give over everything that I do know. I've had many sessions with many groups of mothers and husbands also, and fathers that would join. And, I've been seeing real change in families, children's relationships with their parents have changed. They're thriving. It's just fascinating to see how I've been studying all of this on my own. And I'm so honored to give it over and to give over everything that I study. And I feel like everybody should know this, especially as parents. We don't go to school to learn how to be a parent.
Mhm.
And yet there's so much to know.
Incroyable, c'est vraiment, vraiment incroyable. Et justement, comme tu as dit que tu voulais justement donner à tout le monde en tant que tel ce que tu connaissais en la matière, je me demandais, est-ce que dans ta perspective, tu penses que il faut plus aller, parce qu'on sait que avec le parenthood et tout ça, il y a un certain ego, tu sais, de vraiment comme bon, je sais comment éduquer, je sais comment parler avec les enfants. J'ai pas besoin nécessairement de cela. Est-ce que tu crois que de nos jours, avec la génération d'aujourd'hui, il y a comme une certaine gêne d'aller comme vers une professionnelle comme toi et comme poser des questions ou demander de l'aide. Est-ce que tu crois que ce que tu fais dans les yeux des gens un petit peu ils voient ça comme tabou, genre non, je j'ai pas besoin de ça. Est-ce que tu sens ça un petit peu? J'aimerais un petit peu voir ta réaction en fait.
Aurel, 100%. You ask any of our parents, I'm going to a parenting class, they're going to start laughing in your face. Like, what do you need a parenting class for, right? Like, didn't I teach you well? That's first of all. And second of all, like, what are you going to learn? Like, you have a child and you just know what to do.
Mhm.
We don't realize how many ideas and things have been put into our mind that are really not true and not actually serving as good for our children. So your answer is, of course, there's a lot of parents that, think it's ridiculous to go to a parenting class, but I guarantee every single parent that has been in my first class, they come back with their husbands and they're like, how do I not know this? I have a human being and I don't know this. So we don't realize how much, how helpful this is. And yeah, you are right. It's you know, we have to put our ego aside. We have to realize that, yeah, we don't know it all. I don't know it all. And we're each trying our best, and parenting is challenging. And the more we know, the more we can give to our children, and the more we can understand them and meet them at where they're at, you know? Yeah.
Absolument, je vois exactement de quoi tu parles. Et des fois, les parents, ils ont un petit peu le courage d'aller chercher de l'aide quand ils en ont besoin. Mais à ton avis, tu crois que c'est à quel moment qu'on doit seek cette aide-là? Est-ce que c'est comme quand on pense avoir des enfants, quand on a déjà des enfants, quand on commence la pregnancy, comme c'est quoi le moment exact pour faire ça?
It's so funny you say this, because I would say the parents that actually call me for like a one-on-one panicking with their child, it's normally at the stage of teenagehood, where a teenager is more independent, and now they're like, oh my, maybe I do need help. But at that point, I can't say it's too late, because it's never too late in life. But it definitely comes with more challenges, you know, versus a newborn baby, where we understand where they're holding and what I can offer them and what they need to thrive. It's totally different. So of course, I would say it's beneficial for anybody wishing to know, to want to have a child at any stage, you know, pregnancy, before pregnancy, just to understand, you know, child development and how I can give my child their needs and really just fulfill my responsibility as a parent, really, right? So for sure, the earlier the better. But in regards to who calls out for help more, is definitely the ones with teenagers and, you know, older adults that are a lot, the children are a lot older, you know.
Ok, alors donc d'habitude on dit mieux vaut tard que jamais. Là, c'est mieux vaut tôt, le plus tôt possible que jamais. C'est incroyable, mais parce qu'on a vraiment besoin de cette aide-là, et il faut vraiment comme avoir le courage d'aller la chercher. C'est vraiment incroyable. Donc toi, tu te spécialises vraiment de comme âge 0 à comme 18 ans. Comment, like, c'est quoi le range?
It's basically what I give over to parents is how to build a relationship. And when we have a relationship with our children, you know, we can have a 2-year-old or a 20-year-old, and that is what stays, right? Like, for example, when a child is young, we can use all sorts of control with them, right? We can bribe them, we can punish them, they're going to be afraid. We're using manipulation tactics, rules. And then as children grow up, all of that kind of goes away, because they're older. They can get their own job, they can buy whatever they want. They don't really need us. So what is holding us is this relationship. So I teach parents how to build this relationship by understanding our children and focusing on really what matters.
Ok, j'ai compris. Alors en
It's
fait,
at all ages, for
ok.
all. Yeah.
Donc, en fait,
I've
ouais.
had parents in my class with, you know, 20-year-olds, 15-year-olds, and then I had parents with a newborn baby, you know, so really, it applies to all ages. Yeah.
Ok, mais ouais, mais quand tu me dis ça, mais je me dis en fait que si tu builds pas la relationship au début de la vie entre un parent et un enfant, ça risque qu'il n'y a pas de moment où tu te dis like it's too late, il n'y a pas de coming back, il n'y a pas de, tu vois ce que je veux dire? Parce que si la relation entre le parent et l'enfant, elle a jamais peut-être existé, ou elle a jamais comme été parfaite, et que tu as un parent qui vient avec un enfant de 15 ou 20 ans, ça veut dire, j'imagine que le risque et les obstacles qu'ils vont voir dans cette relation entre eux vont être beaucoup, beaucoup plus grands. Donc, je me dis en fait que le mieux dans ce cas-là, ce serait vraiment de comme apprendre à débuter, à construire, plutôt que venir plus tard et essayer de comme réparer toutes les autres années, quoi.
Right. It's a beautiful thing, because, you know, children are really the ones giving us unconditional love. They really, really are. And if a parent is willing, just willing, to actually look at their actions and to actually, you know, think to themselves, maybe I should do things differently. Just that. Children are so open to our love. And the wonderful thing is that it's really, really never too late. The thing is, in the beginning, there's a little bit of friction, because a child is gonna wonder, is my parent really serious? Do they really care? What is this change? Is this again a nonsense? Is this not true? Are they trying to manipulate me like they have throughout my life? You know what I mean? So there's this friction, and they're gonna also fight back because they're gonna want to see, do you really love me? And so a parent in the beginning, when they want a change with their child, it's very challenging because the child also is going to be testing the parent. So that beginning where both, want to change is challenging. But once, the child sees, no, my parent is actually showing up for me and they're sincere and they love me no matter what, then a child is actually, so open. And all the parent needs to do is be honest, be objective. That's it. There's one thing, if I can tell one thing to parents, if you don't know what to do, do this one thing. Treat your child like a guest. Like a guest. You know what I mean? How would you treat this guest? If they spilled something, you would say, oh, let me help you clean it up. You would never make them feel bad. If they woke up grumpy in the morning, you would say, how can I help you? Instead of being like, oh, you have a frown on your face again. So really just that, realizing that our children, we don't own them. They are guests, right? God has blessed us with children and they are guests in our home. And just that simple change for a parent to realize, like, I don't own my child. My child is a guest in my house for X amount of years, and I am privileged to give them their needs. Just that can actually repair a relationship that has been ruptured over many years, where the parent was trying to control a child and make them feel like, they were owned by them and an extension of them.
C'est incroyable parce que dans ce que tu as dit, en fait, ce que j'ai pu réaliser dans ce que tu as dit, c'est vraiment comme dans n'importe quelle relation, que ce soit une relation entre un parent et un enfant, des amis, un couple, un mari, une femme, c'est vraiment comme la sincérité en fait. C'est vraiment comme être sincère. C'est vraiment parce qu'on est tous humains, on fait tous des erreurs. Et il faut pas avoir justement un petit peu peur de s'afficher en tant qu'humain, de se donner quoi, en fait, d'être sincère devant la personne à qui avec qui on a affaire, que ce soit dans une relation avec un parent et un enfant. Et j'imagine que ce qui pourrait agrandir ou embellir ou la rendre authentique, cette relation, c'est vraiment la sincérité, le fait que comme je comprends que tu es humain, tu as des sentiments. Je suis humain. En tant que parent aussi, j'ai des sentiments. Et ne pas avoir justement peur ou de la peine de justement les montrer, d'en parler. Et en faisant ça, ça va build up une certaine confiance, n'est-ce pas?
100%. That's so important to show that we're human, right? And I literally tell my children, you're growing and I'm growing too. Like, we're on this journey too, right? And sometimes I have to apologize for what I've done because I'm growing and I'm learning and I'm going to try better next time. And so are you. And I give that same for my child, because if I can do that for me, if I can understand I'm human, I'm growing, and I'm going to do errors, I can also offer that to my child and be like, you're human. You are going to make mistakes. And we're both growing on this, journey of life together, really. And I'm not in any way above you. You see what I mean? To come down, like you're saying, to the level of a child and being, you're human. You have feelings, and so do I, right? And so am I. And coming to this, really showing our humanity to our children. And that's what can actually make them more comfortable with us, because they understand that we're human just like them. We're growing just like them. And actually, Aurel, I really did think before having my children that I would be the one to teach them all sorts of things in this world. And they are the ones teaching me, right? They got cut off. I didn't hear you, but I was saying basically that how much I'm learning from my children when I thought it would be the reverse.
Okay. And so basically what we have to get from this is, avant de commencer tout ce travail-là, il faut comme changer le stéréotype et comme ce qu'on fait tous en fait. Et je m'inclus là-dedans. Genre, je suis le parent, toi tu es mon enfant, je sais ce qui est bon pour toi, je suis comme là, toi tu es là, alors comme moi je suis l'adulte, je sais ce qui est bon pour toi, like you have no say in whatever is being decided, tu vois ce que je veux dire? Alors avant de comme commencer à travailler la relation, c'est comme cette hiérarchie qui existe dans notre tête, qui ne devrait pas exister, sauf peut-être dans certaines situations où on doit quand même utiliser notre autorité de parent, mais comme vraiment comme essayer de comme se dire on est égal à égal, comme dans une relation normalement, comme entre un mari et une femme, comme entre deux copains. S'il y a quelqu'un qui se sent supérieur à l'autre, même dans une autre relation, ça ne fonctionnera pas. Je crois que c'est le premier step à changer en fait.
I love what you're saying, Gorel, because it's true. It really is the basis of every single relationship. And back to what you were saying, that there are moments as a parent, right? I have to step up as my responsibility for my child because I'm older, right? And there are three things to keep in mind when we, step up, like you're saying, and be that authority figure. So when it comes to our child's safety, when it comes to the safety of another person and the safety of the environment, those are the things that I will have to step up and, kind of like make it a point that this is my responsibility and I can't allow you to hit this person and I can't allow you to, break the park or, whatever. So it really comes down to safety. And the rest, like you're saying, is you collaborate with your child, you get them involved. And I actually wrote about this today. Instead of overpowering our children, and thinking we know everything, we know what's good for them, we know how they should be feeling right now. Instead, empower your child. Ask them, what do you think about this situation right now? How do you think we should go about this? What are your thoughts around this? And you will be amazed. Sleeping is a rupture in the relationship. It's a separation. The same way our child is going to school, is separated from us, children feel separated from us when they go to sleep. So it's really hard for our children. Now, if we're talking about bedtime as a whole, I just want to say to all the parents here that if you're busy telling your children, go to your room as a punishment, their room became a negative thing now. So good luck with bedtime. Good luck. Because nobody wants that negative thing.
Ok. Wow, c'est vraiment quelque chose de très profond et c'est quelque chose c'est un moment central de la journée. C'est vraiment comme quelque chose un moment qui va qui revient tous les jours et que certains dread et ils ont peur, ils anticipent et c'est pour ça que j'imagine que c'est super intéressant de changer la perspective de ces moments-là et c'est vraiment je crois que ça peut changer toute cette expérience-là en beaucoup mieux en tant que telle.
Right. And if we understand that, I have children and, bedtime is a big deal in my house too. If you understand that we are separating at bedtime, that this is a real separation. When your child goes to school, how do you say goodbye to them? The same way when my daughter was having a hard time going to sleep, I literally said, maybe you want a t-shirt of mine when you're in your bed. Do you want to sleep with my shirt? Do you want my pillow? Will this make you feel better? When we are in the mindset of the relationship right now, things just come naturally to us differently versus go to bed, you have to sleep. Coming from this authority when really even if we wanted to, children actually can't sleep. It's not a switch that we can press, like we mentioned before.
Alors encore vraiment empower the kid. J'ai dit encore dans ce sleep training, empower the kid à choisir justement comment il voudrait dormir.
Yes.
Et lui laisser justement la possibilité de choisir la façon la plus sécuritaire, la plus calme, la meilleure façon pour lui de dormir, en fait.
100%. I love that. You see, Aurel, you know how to do it now.
Voilà.
Basically, you empower children by saying, do you want to put on your pajamas before I read the story or after? Oh, you don't want to read a story? Do you want to play a game or read? They are being involved in their own life. And when we are involved in our own life, we actually want to do things that we decide for ourselves. It doesn't become about, I am listening to you now and I have to listen to you. You see the change in dynamic. It's very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying bedtime will become easier, but because we have more of an understanding, we can offer empathy to our children and understand where they're coming from. And that can make our children, feel better that we get it. We get it. It's not easy. I'm not saying bedtime is easy. And, I'm not trying to, for example, things like, oh, don't worry, I'm in the house and there's nothing to cry about. And no, I'm coming from a place where, wow, you feel worried and you feel sad. And I get it. It's hard to go to sleep. It's really hard. You're alone in your room. I get it, and you show up for your children for however they're feeling.
Mm-hmm. C'est incroyable. C'est vraiment, vraiment incroyable. Comme j'ai dit, c'est vraiment le mot et le concept de relationship que j'entends dans toutes tes réponses et qui est central à toute cette expérience de parenting. C'est vraiment incroyable. Donc ça nous a beaucoup appris de choses sur le sleep training et ce que ce n'est pas et comment ça aide pas, on va le dire. Et en fait, le prochain sujet que quelqu'un nous a demandé, en fait, c'est des enfants qui ont un manque de confiance en soi. Comment, en tant que parent, on peut se permettre de justement renforcer la confiance en soi. Encore, c'est sûr qu'on va parler de relationship entre les parents et l'enfant qui vont beaucoup, beaucoup aider, mais avec des tips plus spécifiques. Comment je peux build? Parce que on est d'accord que comme un enfant qui manque de confiance en soi, ça peut briser le cœur de certains parents et on se retrouve helpless. On est comme, what am I supposed to do? Je peux bien lui dire comme, I love you, tu es le meilleur, mais des fois on a besoin de comme ce plus ou ce boost là qui va faire que vraiment il va lui-même prendre conscience de how amazing he is. Qu'est-ce que tu suggères là-dessus?
I love this question. And I think a lot of parents have this question on their minds. So first, let's just define, what does it mean to have confidence? What it means for a child to have confidence is, my friend could not want to play with me right now, and I'm okay. I'm not crumbling down because I'm okay. My friend could make fun of me, and I'm okay. That is having confidence, right? Mm-hmm. So how does a child grow up with confidence? Every single interaction we have with our kids is showing them something very important. Mm-hmm. It's showing them, are they worthy of our time? Are they worthy of an explanation? Are they worthy of our patience? That is how they learn their self-worth. Children grow up very egocentric. We see it when we go and we play hide and go seek with a baby, half their body's out, and they think we don't see them because they don't see, right? They're very egocentric. So that serves them a purpose for, survival. But whenever we interact with them, if we, let's say, yell at them, then they're not going to say like, oh, my mother's going through something right now. They're going to be like, I am bad. They're egocentric. It's them. So I am bad right now. Right? So if we also give love, patience, communication, and time, wow, I am worthy. I am worthy of that. I am worthy of respect. I am worthy. I am worthy as is. So a child grows up knowing that even if somebody doesn't want to be my friend, that's not going to affect me because I am worthy. They feel worthy in the way that they are. So I wish, Aurel, like you're saying, give me a tip. There's no tip. It's again, in our relationship, in our interactions, every single interaction is an opportunity to show our children this. And when we understand that, we try to make a better effort with the way we approach our children and the way we communicate to them.
Ok, ok, donc c'est vraiment à nous, parents, de vraiment comme démystifier ce mystère-là, et de toute façon, ce qu'un parent il va faire avec un enfant, un autre parent il le fera pas avec un autre enfant. C'est vraiment personnel en tant que tel, quoi.
Right. Another thing, another aspect, if I can add, is that a lot of times we're focused on what our children are doing. So when they're achieving something, we're like, that's amazing, this is incredible, right? And, you know, we're only giving emphasis to their achievements and what they're capable of doing. So then when they're not doing, again, their inside is like, am I worthy now? So that's why it's so important to give unconditional love around everything, because then nothing can change the child's worth. You are worthy for your existence because you have an essence inside of you. You're holding a soul inside of you. You're more than what I see. And that's how the child will see themselves also.
C'est vrai que c'est puissant. C'est puissant, c'est très, très puissant. C'est vraiment que c'est vrai que c'est magnifique. Je suis sans mots. Mais c'est vraiment comme des concepts incroyables. Et c'est pour ça que j'ai dit dans les stories, etc., que comme we have to be like to be real et être prêt à changer parce que comme c'est c'est tellement comme théorique et poétique et comme utopique, tu sais, comme ce que tu dis, mais avec du travail, tu sais. Et je suis sûr que les parents, s'ils sont connectés à 10h20 et on a 36 personnes présentement qui nous regardent, je suis sûr que comme il y a un intérêt, il y a un intérêt à changer les choses. Et on voit que justement, d'après ce que tu dis, ce changement et cette implication et vraiment cet engagement peut changer, peut faire des miracles. Et c'est pour ça que c'est vraiment incroyable.
I think a lot of parents want to change because they've been affected by their childhood. Their self-esteem is ruptured and they don't have a connection with their inner self. And, you know, when you realize that, you realize, how can I do better for my child? You know, how can I give them their needs? What can I do? So I think the interest comes from a place of pain, and that pain serves us to do better for our children.
Mm-hmm. C'est vraiment incroyable. Mais justement, tu as parlé de... tu me vois, tu m'entends? Ah, voilà, ça, ok, c'est revenu. C'est bon. Ok, là, c'est bon. Donc, en fait, justement, tu as dit que comme ça venait comme du passé des parents, etc. Est-ce que tu crois que... J'étais en train de parler de ça avec ma femme tout à l'heure, et j'ai dit, il faut que je lui pose cette question. À quel point l'éducation de nos parents, elle influence notre façon d'éduquer nous-mêmes, donc nos enfants. Tu vois ce que je veux dire? Est-ce qu'il y a comme une étude où il y a des tendances scientifiques qui nous disent, like, if your parents were this style, you're gonna probably be this style too. Tu vois ce que je veux dire? Et si ça existe, est-ce que c'est changeable? Est-ce que c'est faisable de comme faire un 360 et de devenir de parents, des parents totalement différents? Parce que j'ai l'impression que comme notre génération, je sais pas, j'ai l'impression que comme plein de parents d'aujourd'hui éduquent comme leurs parents, et je trouve pas ça bizarre, mais je me demande si c'est comme une norme ou c'est scientifiquement, qu'est-ce qu'on en dit?
So there is a lot of research being done actually presently, and a lot that has been came out recently. There's such a thing as intergenerational trauma.
Mm-hmm. C'est ça, parce que si c'est comme ça, on est dans la merde totale.
No. So there's such a thing. It's actually yeah. So basically, for 3 generations, mainly there's a connection, right? So 3 generations. Now, a child who's been parented a certain way will parent children that way. However, if they become conscious of their childhood and they heal what they need to heal, right, then they can offer their children better. Only if they express their emotions and if they heal themselves. Because like I said, you know, our brain might forget a lot about our childhood, but our body remembers it all. So we are walking around with a lot of suppressed emotions. That means if I was sent to my room to cry alone at the age of, I don't know, whatever age, and I don't remember it, my body remembers it. And my body actually stores it. How do you know what to heal? Your children are showing it to you. When my child started to cry at a very young age, I, inside of me, started to flip out. It was like, oh my God, why is she crying? What can I do to make her stop crying? Why was I flipping out? Why was my body doing that? Why was my body reacting this way? Every time we react in a certain way to a situation that is out of the norm, that is the situation teaching us something. Meaning, my child is crying and my younger self that was never allowed to express herself in a crying way is flipping out because crying is bad and this has to stop. You weren't allowed to cry and now your child's not allowed to cry. So that's how it's passed down. But if I pause and I say, hey, my child's crying, why am I feeling like this is bad behavior? What is wrong with crying? There's nothing wrong. Actually, when you study it, you realize that crying, the actual act of crying, is what heals us as humans. Mm-hmm. And crying is actually beneficial to us. And I actually like it when children cry today because in my mind, I'm like, wow, express all of your emotions. Don't suppress it. I don't want you to go into adulthood carrying all of that from your childhood. Because that is what we are doing in this generation and the previous generations. We are walking adults, but carrying a lot of emotions from our past, from our younger selves. So there is a ways to heal. There are ways to heal, but I'm not going to go into that right now. And when you heal, you are healing future generations too. So yeah, you're right. In the beginning, you said, oh my God, we're all doomed because I said trauma. But there is also such a thing as intergenerational healing and breaking those patterns. And we break those patterns by facing them, by expressing them, by really, you know, a lot more than what I'm saying now. But yes, there is such a thing. And there is also such a thing as changing the patterns. And it's a really good question. And I'm still very much learning this right now. And it's fascinating. The research, I mean, incredible stories, which I won't get everybody bored right now with them. But really blows my mind.
Ok. Donc, thérapie pour tout le monde, quoi, c'est ça?
No, actually. It's, you know, it's every single person on this live knows what triggers them. Mm-hmm. And what triggers you is what you need to look into. It's as simple and as complicated as that.
Mm-hmm. Donc, vraiment, c'est ça. Juste faire une petite recherche. Une petite recherche.
When you understand this, Aurel, when you understand this, you realize that my child is not making me upset right now. You understand? Mm-hmm. My child has nothing to do with this. It's me, myself. Nobody can control me. I can't control my child. Nobody can control me. So mm-hmm. Why am I feeling this way? What's going on inside of me that has nothing to do with my child? But with traditional parenting, the poor children getting, you know, like kind of like what is left over of the parent that needs to deal with. Now the child has to suffer the consequence because the parent is blaming it all on a pure, innocent child when really this is a lesson for them to look within themselves and say, hey, what is going on here? Why did I feel this way? Why am I flipping out? Why can't I respond? Why am I reacting?
Wow. Incroyable, incroyable. Donc, on a vraiment beaucoup de travail à faire. Non, mais c'est bien, tu nous tapes dans la gueule, c'est super. Je suis content, c'est bien parce que ça nous réveille. Parce que c'est ce qu'on a besoin d'entendre. C'est ce qu'on a besoin d'entendre parce que, comme j'ai dit, le parent ego, c'est la première fois que je dois casser.
Aurel, there's a reason why I do this in groups. I don't like to do this You know what I mean? I don't want to put this on one individual. There's a reason why I give group classes and group. First of all, it's also really nice because parents connect and they have friends to talk to about this way of parenting.
Ils pleurent tous ensemble.
Exactly. We cry all together, me included. You know, I'm also on this journey of parenting, and it's also challenging for me. And, you know, it's not because I know all this that I'm on a different level. I'm here, right here with you, Ored, parenting day to day with you. And it's challenging. It is.
Ouais, non, je comprends. Mais c'est vraiment incroyable parce que on n'a pas cette vision des choses. Et c'est pour ça que c'est vraiment incroyable. Donc, c'est ça. Prochaine question en tant que telle, je crois on l'a un petit peu, on en a pas parlé. C'était un enfant qui dit non à tout. Va ranger tes jouets, non. Va au lit, non. Va brosser tes dents, non.
Okay.
Donc déjà, comment on doit l'interpréter? Parce qu'il y a, comme on vient de l'apprendre avec toi dans le live, ça veut dire il faut toujours aller sous la couche de juste l'acte. Il faut aller vérifier exactement qu'est-ce qui vient, qu'est-ce que l'enfant ressent. Mais après, comment on réagit à ça? Donc, what is it and how do we react?
So first, we have to understand what we're doing by asking a child a question that they are able to answer yes or no to, right? So if it's something that the child has to do, then it's not a question form, right? For example, if my child has to put the toy down that they're about to hit their sister with, I'm not going to ask them, right? It's put the toy down or I'm going to help you, right? Mm-hmm. So the mother here that's getting a no, 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 no from the child all the time has to understand, what am I asking my child here that she is having this space to say yes and no to? When we ask a child a question and we put a child from a place of being overpowering rather than empowering, what we explained before, meaning go do that, go do this, versus what do you think about this? Should we do this now? Should we do this after? What are your thoughts around this? When we overpower our child and put them in this position, what happens is something very interesting. Each of us here on the live has two needs. The need to be authentic, to have a connection with yourself, and the need to have an attachment with another. When children are young, that attachment is their attachment figure, their parents. When we ask children questions, it could be as simple as put on your shoes right now. And they say no. Right now, they're going to have to choose between staying true to who it is they are, being authentic, or this attachment. What is more important? Some children, I'm not going to go into depth with this. I go into depth with this in my class. But basically, there are some kids that will choose themselves and some kids that will choose the attachment. And not necessarily, and actually not at all, is one good versus the other, because a healthy relationship is where there's a balance. Mm-hmm. I can bring my authentic self and I can find attachment in you.
And how do you...
What?
So how do you... Are you able to have both?
Sorry, what did you say?
I said, so how can you permit him to be like authentic and the attachment?
By collaborating with them, by being in it together, and by dropping whatever doesn't need to be held. For example, my child has to put on their shoes. Is that really an issue? When they're going to be an adult, are they going to have a hard time putting on shoes? That is not going to be an issue. Drop it. They don't want to put on shoes. Drop it. Whatever is not important, we should not make of it a bigger thing than what it is, because it's ruining our relationship. And it's positioning our child in a way where they have to choose you or me. Because with shoes, there's no compromise. It's you or me. Are you going to put them on or are you not going to put them on? So we have to back off and actually question our questions. What am I asking my child? What are my boundaries in my house? What is it that I want from my kid? What is it that I don't care if they do or if they don't do? What is it that we have to figure out together? Because there's room together to figure out. You understand what's going on here? So, you know, another thing about saying no, it's fascinating. You know, it's fascinating. You see parents with teenagers that come to me and say, I don't understand why my child did this with their group of friends. Why didn't they tell their friends no? Well, did you ever accept a no in your house? Was that something you taught your child? Saying no is really important. They have to know how to say no to certain things. And if our children are saying no, good, you're listening to your inner voice, your inner wisdom. I want you to stay connected to that. I don't want you to think that anybody knows better than what you feel inside of you. Because when I come to my child and I say no, you can't say no to me. I'm saying your inner voice is not valid. It's not worthy of being listened to. And do that over and over and over and over and over again. A child will be hesitant and found with peer pressure. And okay, I'm just going to go with it because my inner voice is not something that is worthy of being listened to. Mm-hmm. When I position my child, and this happens in my house, I actually make it a point to do it so that my child can exercise the word no. When I say, can you go get me that book? Or could you go get me that cup? And my child chooses to say no, I respect it. I'm asking a question, and a question has the right to be answered with a yes and a no. And I'm going to ask everybody on this live right now, are you comfortable saying no to somebody? Probably not. You feel like it's some sort of bad behavior. And then you start to resent the other person because you feel like you had to say yes all the time. So no, you can say no and still love another person. You could. It's possible. And no doesn't mean I don't love you. It means that right now I have to listen to my inner self and I can't.
Okay. But let's say for like let's say, I don't know, essential stuff. Yes, absolutely. But let's say for like essential stuff like brushing teeth or like getting dressed before bed or I don't know, going to the bathroom and like yes, they have to like listen to their inner voice, but at the same time it's like something they have to do.
So at the beginning, Goren, remember what I said. When we set boundaries, we have to think of three things. The safety of our children, their body, right? So brushing teeth is the safety of their body. Mm-hmm. The safety of the others, the safety of everybody around them, and the safety of the environment. Those are things that I hold my boundaries. And also, is this going to be important later on in life? So we provide our children with their needs right now, also thinking of, is this going to matter later on in life? Sleeping through the night, my child is not going to have a problem with that. That's not something I should be focusing on right now as a parent. There's so many other things I need to focus on. My child, as an adult, will be going to sleep. They will be sleeping through the night. It's not a concern. What concerns me are other things, right? How they take responsibility for their actions, right? So much more. And basically, when we set boundaries, I don't tell parents which ones to put and which ones not to put. I can walk you through them. But you as a parent have to feel comfortable with what you allow in your house and what you don't allow. I can't tell you that. For example, I allow my kids to jump off the couch. I allow it. Another parent is going to have a heart attack. So you do what works in your house. What is it like for them that this is a non-negotiable limit in my house?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, amazing. That's really amazing. So really se mettre à la place de l'enfant. Se mettre à la place de l'enfant et vraiment se positionner à sa place.
And the most as possible, even if our limit is really set in stone, like for example, taking a bath. My child has to take a bath tonight, right? But they have the choice. Can I give it to them now? Can I give it to them later? Do they want to play longer in it? Do they want to make like it's a pool and take their goggles? You see what I mean? There's a lot of choices which within our limits. And we need to go there with our children and allow them to choose so that they can cooperate and collect responsibility for things in their life.
Perfect. And we have a question here. At what age do you think they understand these boundaries?
At what age?
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, at what? Well, it's not something that you like, you know, like as our children grow, when they're young, at what age do they understand boundaries? Very young, they understand boundaries. I mean, my 2-year-old knows I have a boundary. You know, just today, she took her yogurt and she took a straw and she started to blow inside of it and yogurt started to go everywhere. And she knows, you know, this is my boundary. And I literally just took it away. I see you are not hungry right now. So that is my boundary.
Okay, wow. Amazing. That's crazy. Yes.
Why is it frozen? Do you guys hear me?
I hear you, but it's frozen. Okay.
Now,
okay, it's back now.
Okay. So what we were saying about boundaries and stuff, you know, when we set boundaries for the best interest of our children and we remove ourselves from the equation, what I'm going to look like, right? For example, I want my child to wear certain types of clothing because it's cute and beautiful. And they want to wear, you know, something that is outdated and ugly or whatever. And, you know, I'm trying to get them to change their clothes. That is not for my best interest, right? This is nothing to do. This is for my ego. This is for what it looks like. So when we really remove ourselves from the equation and really set boundaries for the best interest of our children know, they feel it. They know that when my mother has a limit, it's not to control me. It's not to be above me and authoritative. It's because she's here to keep me safe. So, you know, for a lot of parents that are flipping out why their children aren't, you know, cooperating with the most basic things, I invite you to look at what you're asking your children as a whole. Because for your child, it's not just that's important, even though for you, that's just important. What are you asking them constantly throughout their day that is not for their best interest that you're making them do, for example, you know? And then when it comes to something for their best interest, they will treat it in the same way. So, you know, we're the ones really creating the dynamic in this relationship.
Ok, wow. C'est vraiment très intéressant. Et ça change tout. Comme je te dis, c'est toute une question de perspective. C'est comment tu regardes en tant que tel le problème, comment tu l'interprètes. Et après...
I teach in my course a lot more on boundaries, how to set them, you know, how to go about it. There's a lot more to discuss, obviously, that I'm not going to go into right now.
C'est incroyable, mais c'est vraiment important. Il y a comme ça, so it's like an art. How to choose boundaries, how to put it in your house, how to apply them. C'est vraiment comme un art, je dirais, parce que c'est vraiment un choix déjà de boundaries et c'est vraiment comme des priorités qu'il faut se mettre au niveau des boundaries aussi. Et c'est vraiment...
I think also, Aurel, it comes down to your mindset. If parents really get into a certain mindset, it comes naturally. It's just so hard for us because it's so foreign to us. It's so new to us. But if I were to tell you, you know, you have a guest in your house, right? How would you treat her? Then you will know. So if you just picture your child as a guest, you will know how to go about setting a boundary, right? You're going to let her dress the way she wants. You're going to let your guest, you know, kind of be who they are. But if they're going to start breaking things, then you might say something, right? You might say like, hey, I don't allow this in my house.
Et aussi, et aussi, pour les boundaries, d'après ce que si je comprends bien aussi, et je voulais partager ça aussi, on a parlé ce concept-là d'égalité, tu vois. Dès qu'on fixe des boundaries, je suis désolé, j'ai un certain pouvoir, right? Je te dis, tu n'as pas le droit de faire ça, tu le fais pas. Et directement, la relation entre moi et l'enfant, il peut être affecté. Parce que il y a quand même ce boundaries qui est comme, il y a, qui donne un genre de supériorité par rapport à l'enfant et qui malheureusement l'enfant ne comprend pas à ce point-là que c'est pas parce qu'il veut avoir tout le pouvoir ou c'est parce que whatever, mais c'est plus parce que c'est bon pour moi, c'est pour ma sécurité, etc. Tu vois ce que je veux dire? Donc c'est vraiment, ouais, donc c'est vraiment comme quelque chose qui est très très important et comme j'ai dit, c'est un art, boundary, et j'espère que des gens pourront justement aller en plus profondeur, ou peut-être si on fait un prochain live, on pourra vraiment comme aller en profondeur, like life boundaries, tu sais.
Right. I just want to add something here that's really important, that I brought on my page, which I find really important. You know, when a child is doing something that is crossing our boundary, right? They're throwing something, they're hitting somebody, they're doing something that is really unacceptable.
Voilà.
And that unacceptable in all our homes. We could really know that this is a boundary that's unacceptable.
Mhm.
You know, don't tell the child, you know, this is unacceptable. Because what that makes them believe is that they are unacceptable. So we want to make sure to split who they are from their action. And who they are is how they feel, what's going on inside of them. So telling a child, you know, wow, you're having a really hard time right now. I get it. It's so understandable. You know, you seem upset. I also can't allow you to hit when you're upset. And what that does is it makes the child feel like my mother loves me and this action is unacceptable, but that's not me. You see what I'm saying? And when we show this unconditional love, the child is more open to learning and taking our guidance from us.
C'est vrai, donc je juge pas l'action que l'enfant fait. J'essaie de comprendre ce qui se passe derrière l'action. Je lui montre que j'accepte ce feeling.
And then you problem solve with them at a later time when all their emotions go. You problem solve
Comment je peux remplacer ce geste-là quand tu sens cette émotion-là, genre.
Exactly. You know, tell me more. I saw you were taking a truck and you wanted to more about it. Empower them to look within themselves, to see what's going on within themselves. And then the child, once they see, it's like, what should we do about this? Next time you feel this way, how can we go about this in a different way? And them real, tangible suggestions, not, oh, I want you to use your words next time you're upset. Not doable. I want you, every parent here watching this live, next time they're upset, to use their words. It's very, very hard. We're asking of this from an underdeveloped, you know, brain to do that. It's extremely hard. So we need to realize to give tangible, real stuff for our children. And I help parents with this, right? How can I guide my child? And this isn't magic. Change, you know, happens microscopically. It's like a seed we're planting in our child. And it's going to take time to grow. And like I said, the only thing in our power is the environment. Are we going to give it sun? Are we going to give it water? Are we going to give it warmth? Is it going to be loving? Because that's what's going to make the seed grow. And the growth is going to take place over many, many years. But this is real growth. This is not a child who is afraid of getting punished. So they're going to hide all of this of them. And they're not going to be their true self. And they're not going to show us how they feel because they're afraid. This is real growth. And real growth takes time and patience and a lot of love. It really, really does. You know, and when a tree, you know, when there's a leaf that goes bad on my tree that I'm trying to plant, I'm not going to start shaking it and trying to control it in that way. I'm going to give it more water. I'm going to give it more sun. I'm going to take care of it. Take care of the environment. The actual planting and growing is at control.
Incroyable, incroyable. C'est vrai que ça peut changer toute une vie. C'est juste incroyable. Et la façon qu'on réagit, etc. pour passer je vais juste passer aux autres questions parce que je sais pas combien de temps tu as sur ce live.
I don't know. Right now, I don't have the time you do, but I see it's 10:46, and I can't believe that 37 parents are up this late at night listening to
Incroyable.
us. Honestly,
Incroyable.
you guys are so admirable. I can't believe this because, I know you guys all had a long day and it's tiring. And who wants to talk about parenting?
Ouais,
It's
non, c'est
exhausting.
sûr. C'est sûr. Donc, c'est ça. On va essayer de passer à travers de quelques autres questions, voir jusqu'à que tu t'endormes devant la caméra. Après, on arrêtera. Donc, my 1-year-old is a scratcher. What to do? Aussi
First
simple
of
que
all,
ça.
cut the child's nails,
OK. Ouais, c'est bon
right?
ça.
And think about it. Again, we're going to try controlling the environment and not the
Mhm.
baby. So cut their nails. And you should just know that when a child shows us alarming behaviors, they're only going to do that to us. They're only going to slap our face. They're only going to hit us. That actually shows us that the child feels comfortable doing this to us. And we should actually feel good that our children feel comfortable enough with us to show us how they feel and to do all these things to us. As unpleasant as it is, there is still this positive light to it. Now, again, behavior is communication, and they're communicating their needs. So if a child is scratching and you feel, well, first of all, I wonder what the parent was doing this whole time.
Well, no, well, it's the 1-year-old is my son. So, like, basically, we
So,
just
Oren,
like.
what were you doing every time your child did this?
Honestly, I would just try to stop him and just drop the hand or say non, or when he does it to his sister, je lui dis comme non, gentil, et je lui prends la main et je lui montre comment comme faire gentil, tu vois, comme prendre le même geste mais lui montrer comme quelque chose
Right.
de plus de mieux quoi.
Yeah, so I love that. I love what you did because you want to show children what to do, not only what not to do, right? The thing is very, very tricky. With a 1-year-old baby, the first time they scratched somebody, they got this response. It was right. Let's put ourselves in the baby's shoes for 2 minutes. And let's think about this little baby who's powerless and helpless, who can't do anything for themselves. Finally, they scratch somebody and they get this reaction. Stop. It's very exciting. They automatically, they have some power, right? They're able to get this attention. Even if it's negative attention, it's still attention, right?
It's true because my wife told me, you know what? When he scratches you, try not to react. I know it's hurt. I know it's hard. I know it hurts, but try not to react, to not give a reaction, and see if it helps or yeah. Did you hear what I said?
Kind of. Well, your wife was right. Your wife was right. We shouldn't, especially when it's something that is really not done because, out of frustration or anger or underlying emotions, and really just done out of curiosity. And this is so thrilling, right? A 1-year-old is really discovering. And when they discover something that gets somebody's attention, then they're going to redo it and redo it. It's a little phase and it's going to get out of it. I would strongly just cut her nails, file them down, and it's just not going to hurt anybody. And, distract and laugh and make like it never happened. I guarantee you, after maximum 2-3 days, it's over. It's gone. Really no action.
Okay. I'll try that for sure. Next question. So, how would you approach a situation where your child expresses that a teacher, not the main teacher, yells a lot and it is scary? After making your child feel secure and safe, do you go on to bring it up to the teacher? What if you have a hard time to bring something up like this? What do you suggest?
I love this question. I love this question. And my heart goes out to this parent who has a hard time expressing their inner self. And this is exactly what we don't want for our children. You see what I mean? We want our children to be able to express themselves without feeling like, oh my gosh, what is it? You know, their emotions of the other person now is my responsibility, right? Taking on this other person's, no, no. We have the right as a human being to express ourselves, and we could do it respectfully and lovingly. And it doesn't mean that we, you know, are angry. It's just that we have to express ourselves. And here again, this parent, their child is teaching them that they have to, you know, kind of wake this up in them. They have to open up this part of them to speak up, to open up. And this is just the beginning. We need to be our children's advocates. We have to. How else? Who else is going to talk for them? So what? Parents are also just going to be quiet, suppress what they want to say, and go on with life? No. When there is something that we don't feel good about, we have to express it, especially when our children can't do that for themselves. But here again, we're in a generation where we are like little children inside of a big body, trying to raise a little child in a little child's body. So it's very, very hard. It's extremely hard, you know? And a question each of you should ask is, how old do I feel in my body? How old do I feel? And maybe this person who can't, you know, who doesn't feel capable of speaking up, they might be feeling like they're 10 years old, right? They don't feel their age, because if they felt their age, they would know, hey, you know, I'm 20 and above and I'm this and I'm a parent, and why can't I speak up? So there's something there that this child is teaching this parent. Now, in regards to a teacher who is being aggressive and yelling and being, you know, not respectful to our student, to our children in class, we can't control the entire world. Mm-hmm. We can't control anybody. Our children are the only ones we can empower. We're not able to control the world. Our children will navigate their journey. And teachers like that are our greatest opportunity to empower our children, to tell them, how did it feel when you got yelled at? How does it feel to be in a classroom when a teacher talks disrespectfully? It doesn't feel good. And now this child knows not to do that to somebody else, because they got to feel what it feels like to be in that classroom. Something they will not be feeling in their home, because in their home, hopefully the parents don't yell and they're respectful. So these are learning opportunities that our children are going through. And we shouldn't try to invalidate them and say like, no, don't worry, your teacher is loving, and oh, it's not. No, if your child feels something, validate that. You feel that way, and I'm with you. I'm here right next to you, and I get it, and that is so understandable. And let's be curious about why you feel this way, and empower your child. I actually teach my child, teach in a way where, you know, with this way of empowering my son. When somebody screams at him, he will look at them and tell them, don't yell at me, talk to me. Nice. So you empower your child, you focus on your child. Now the problem happens is, if at home you're yelling, your child will tell you, don't yell at me, talk to me. Your child will say that to you. So you have to be open to that too, right? We can't have double standards. Oh, don't talk to me that way, only to your teacher. That's not going to happen. So when we teach our children and we want to empower them, we need to empower them. And then we get to see the fruit of our actions, the fruit of our labor. We get to see it in these opportunities. When people talk to our child in a not nice way, we get to see, what have I taught my child? How are they going to navigate this?
Incroyable, incroyable. C'est vraiment, donc c'est vraiment voir tous les événements qui arrivent comme learning opportunity, vraiment comme lui donner la chance d'apprendre quelque chose, même si c'est quelque chose de négatif. Qu'est-ce que je peux lui apprendre de positif de cette expérience?
Nothing is bad and nothing is good. Everything just is. It just is. And if our children can just take what is, and then they get to choose how is this good? Is this not good? That is the power we're giving them. And that is the power in their life. No matter what hardship I go through, it is what it is. And now how am I going to go through this? What do I feel? What did I do? Search within yourself. And like you said, it's so important not to search externally. How many of us Google answers for our life that we should know within ourselves? What to do when this happens? We have the answers inside of us. Yet we can't find them because they were ripped. You know, we have to take off all these layers of what we've been taught about ourselves to dig in and search within. What is it that I feel? What should I do? We have the answers within ourselves, and our children have them. We just need to make sure they stay in touch with them, with their inner wisdom.
Incroyable. Incroyable.